So from dorm to Googleplex, it begins in 1995 at Stanford University. And Larry Page thought, maybe I'm going to go to grad school at Stanford. And Sergey, he was already there. And it was his job to show him around campus. And they disagreed about nearly everything during their first meeting. But in 1996, they programmed and released the initial version of Google for people who were at Stanford University. Over the next 2 years, everybody started to love it. And in 1998, Google's web search engine was born. And they called it Backrub. So we could be back rubbing it instead of Googling it. But somewhere along the line, they decided to rename it Google, and I'm certainly glad that they did. And it's a play on the mathematical expression for the number 1, followed by 100 zeros. And their mission, starting back then, was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And they certainly do that. And they are now the 7th and 8th richest people in the world. And they're 14, and this presentation comes from the spring when I put it together, and I left some of it that way because it has good stats. But they became $14 billion richer than they were on the Tuesday evening before the stock report came out. Alphabet reported booming growth, and by golly, all of a sudden, they've got all this more money than they ever had before. And it was a 23% year over year jump that blew right past the analyst's expectation. And Page's wealth had grown by 7.1 billion to 91.2, which making him the 7th. And you could read down there what Brin did to make him the 8th richest person. And these two kids started in the dorm room at Stanford. They wanted it to be an ecosystem. Some people say echo or eco. And it's a term that the big guys are using more and more with technology. And it's a system of products or platforms that are complemented by the applications. And of course, Microsoft, Apple, and Google, each one of them would like you to be their be-all to end-all and use Microsoft stuff or be an Apple person or strictly, I use Google and that's it. Linux has just a suite of software. Google, of course, wants to be the big gun above all, and they have the most comprehensive and diverse suite of apps and hardware that work together. They produce no software that resides on our computers, period. The core is the Chrome browser, and it's the foundation of their platform, and their apps work across a wide variety of operating systems. They work with Apple people, Linux people, Microsoft people. It doesn't make any difference what OS you're using, you could still use Chrome. Android OS is for our touchscreen mobile devices, smartphones and tablets. It's not designed for our computers, period. And it's I love it. It's a modified version of the Linux kernel and open source software. Everything, when you think about it, sometimes it kind of all goes back to Linux. And it was developed by Android, and Google acquired it in 2005, launched their first device in 2008, and we went from there. The web browser was introduced for Windows in 2008, Mac and Linux the next year. And again, most of the code comes from Google's free and, oh my gosh, open source software project Chromium. But Chrome, that's a licensed proprietary freeware software. And it is currently the most popular browser in the world when they want to keep it there, with about 67% all platforms combined. And this dates back then. This has really, we're up to 93 now. But in this spring, 88 took care of 36 vulnerabilities. They paid out 81,000 via the bug bounty program. Zoom also has a bug bounty program, as do other companies. And one was marked critical, Google's highest threat level. That guy got $30,000 for finding that and reporting it. So if you need some extra money, you might want to become a bug bounty person. 9 others were tagged as high, And 3 of those have not even been assigned a dollar amount when this was done. And this was done like a month after the first bounty money went out. So Chrome updates in the background, and you just finish with, restarting your computer, and you're good to go. You could manually update it, but I never have to do that. When I go in, they say there's a new version. I go in and it says you already have it, but you really need to restart. And it's the Chrome OS is I love this, our doorway to the cloud. It's an alternate to operating systems, Windows, Mac OS. Chrome OS is all about simplicity. And I love this one. It is so simple, even your grandma could use it. I noticed that quote does not say grandpa, it says grandma. It's fast and it boots up in a few seconds. And of course, it supports the Chrome apps. And they're kind of like native applications as remote access to the desktop. And we have all of Google services available, including Docs for creating documents, Drive, and Photos. They want it to be the be all end all and the one thing that we are using for everything. The Chrome OS is a lot more secure than Windows laptops. Most of what you download comes from the Play Store, and there are frequent and automatic Chrome OS updates, as well as built-in virus protection. But isn't it interesting? Lately, the companies have come out with virus protection for Chromebooks, and they're using the Chrome OS. Google Docs, that's the same thing as Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They have forms, drawings. You can have your website with Google Sites. You can keep notes and share them with people with Google Keep. Again, I could easily use Docs and Sheets. I could not use PowerPoint because it doesn't do enough for me. But with the Wednesday workshops or VTCs, every once in a while, somebody will, create their presentation in slides and they send it to me and it easily converts into PowerPoint. Absolutely nothing changes and off I go with it. Docs works with everything but the kitchen sink, even BlackBerry devices. Who knew? And it can be used when your Chromebook isn't connected to the internet. And it's just all around. They want you to be using their version of Microsoft Office. And very easily open Word documents, Excel, PowerPoint, all the LibreOffice apps, the same thing. And you can share a document easily, a spreadsheet or whatever, with one person or a group of people. They can be edited just by one person and the other 5 just have to look at it and see what's going on. Or everybody can edit it and come up with a product. So that's good for businesses. So here's the Docs ribbon. Very easy to use, very easy to not have to go around and think, oh my gosh, I use this in Word. Where am I going to find it in Docs? Your tabs up at the top tell you all. This is a spreadsheet. Again, extremely easy to use. And of course, these are all free. If you are not using Microsoft 365 and you're using Word and you don't want to use the online version, you're paying for it. This is your PowerPoint. And again, it's too austere for me. And Google Forms. I use Google Forms all the time. I absolutely love them. You can use them for Tech Club member interest forms. I've had groups that they meet and they say, we can't have a board election. We're not meeting in person. And I'm thinking, but you guys are meeting online and you could put a Google form together with everybody's on there and take a vote that could be, anonymous. And you've got your election committee that comes up with the slate of officers. Using a form for that is cinchy. I use it for all of the VTCs and the Wednesday workshops. And they come to me when I look at them. They're in the Google format. And again, it's super simple for me to use. You can do surveys with it. You can do quizzes. And when I'm finished with, closing it out, I download it and I can download it into Excel. It downloads flawlessly because Excel is actually my native program. And here's a form. And It's super simple to add your questions and put your graphics in and all good kinds of stuff. And then at the bottom, you don't have to worry about figuring out how you include submit. But when you're finished with all of your questions, the submit button pops up automatically and you're good to go. And then you send it out to a cast of thousands. I don't know how many of you guys use Gmail. It is APCUG's, we use the nonprofit email, and I have it for my computer club as well as one of my personal addresses. And back in the day when the Southwest Conference was in San Diego, I couldn't stand the email program that went with the website. It was on GoDaddy. And so I had it come into my Gmail account. I would answer it there. And when I sent it out, it was programmed to look like it was coming from the Southwest Tech Conference. Worked for me. I can get emails with a large attachment with no problem. And I can send it and receive it. And if it's larger than 25 megs coming my way, Google provides a link that you click on and boom, there it is. No big deal. Conversation view is the default. I personally hate that. So I immediately changed mine to the old fashioned way, so to speak, of you got your one coming in, then you answer it, then the next email comes in like this. Conversation is all of the conversation with a email that comes into you, goes back to you. They're all together, but you get to choose. And I love choices. And they scan the emails. They filter spam and malware. I very seldom get any spam, and I never get any malware. Actually, don't get them in any of my email accounts. But, I tell people, don't respond if something comes in that you didn't subscribe to. Mark it as spam, and Google will take it from there. If it'll appear in your spam folder. So be aware, and it's really, really good about that. And I appreciate it because I have the president of the Glendora group in California, and his AOL account has been hacked 3 times now. And I'm thinking, I've been using Gmail forever and a day. I have never, ever had any problems. And when you're first using it, you think, I want to make some folders. I can remember back in the day, Bill Gates told us our hard drive is like a file cabinet. And it was way cool in my classroom because right next to my desk was a 4-drawer file cabinet. So when I was telling that to the students, when I did Introduction to Computers and Windows, I would fling my arm out and hit the side of it. And boy, did they get the idea of their hard drive is just like that 4-drawer cabinet just right next to Judy. But in this, you need to make labels. They can't, do folders because they're not like Microsoft. So I have folders for all of my email accounts. And right now I have created a 2022 renewal folder. When the contests are on, I have one for the digital photos with the 4 categories under that, plus the website and the newsletter. And when I get an email in, I say thank you, and then I move it right over to the folder. I don't care whether they call them labels, folder that it needs to be in. So when it's time to get things to the judges, it's super simple to do because I've got them totally organized. Contacts, it's their contact management tool, and it's Gmail or your Android phone, and you can synchronize your contacts with everything. You can create personal mailing lists. You can have a list for the computer club. You can have a list for the railroad people and all this good kind of stuff with absolutely no problem at all. It's just easy to organize. Google Drive. Store, share, and collaborate on everything but the kitchen sink. It includes all your doc sheets and slides, and they're saved in Google Drive. And Google Drive gives you, not very much, but they do give you 15 gigabyte of free storage. And that goes across Drive, Gmail, and Photos. Until last June, you had unlimited with your photos. And then they got thrifty and said, sorry, those of you can be grandfathered in. but new kids on the block, you're going to have to pay for your storage. Google One manages across photos, drive, and email. This is what you're going to pay for. And it's very convenient. Again, you can have every single thing organized, your photos, docs, whatever, emails, too cool. And this is where you pay. This is just like iDrive that I use is $69 a year for 2 terabytes. Bill James uses this for his backup. He also has all of his documents and everything on OneDrive. He has almost absolutely nothing on his hard drive. So he pays for Google One and puts it up there. And that's one of his backups. The other one is Dropbox. And that dates back to the day when if you referred a friend and they signed up for an account, you got extra storage on Dropbox, and he has 1.5 tons of storage. So he has a double backup as well as OneDrive. Google Calendar, way cool. You can color code all of your stuff. You can look at it daily, weekly, monthly. You can even say, I want my day to start on Monday and not Sunday, and use the number of weeks to be in our calendar view. And what I like is the custom colors. So it jumps out at me what kind of meeting I'm going to. Am I going to the Senior Center Advisory Council meeting? Am I giving a presentation? That's a different color. And am I attending some other group's meeting across the US or in Canada? That's another color. And I'm a visual person, and that's kind of important to me. You can schedule your events. There is a Zoom meeting from Bob G. He gives his yearly presentation to my group in March, because in October, I defer to the KEGS group in Washington. They meet on the second Monday of the month, so I let them have that, and I get his yearly presentation in March, where he normally would be visiting us in Southern California. You can share your calendar with other people. If you are having a family reunion and you create a calendar just for that and you share it with everybody, they can put in your choice, either when they're available or when they're not, however your brain goes. And you don't have to keep sending emails back and forth to each other. Okay, these people, everybody can look at the calendar and say, look at that. There's the 3rd Saturday, and that month when we're having the reunion, nobody's doing anything. The reunion is going to be held on that day. Google Tasks, make a list of your to-do list, so to speak. Apple, yes.
One thing that my wife told me, and I forgot to do tonight, is you can put the Zoom meeting address into the notes of the Google Calendar. So you can just click on that and it directly opens the Zoom meeting. Right,
that's right here. This is Bob G. This is how Bob G sends his out. And you can have it go to Google Calendar, Outlook's calendar, and one other calendar. And you can add this as this type. Whereas what I normally send out is kind of like you have, only mine's more definitive, where the link is in the email. You can have it both ways, but he sends these out well in advance. And he loves using this. And I will get information about other group meetings, and they'll say, this is the statement they will have on their email that has their information on it. So yeah, it's way cool if that's the way you want to do it. It's just a choice.
It's quicker.
Yeah, that is true. But do you know how many people I run up against with my Wednesday workshops that don't, I say, they'll say, have I registered? And I always reply, do you use a calendar? If nothing else, they could go into their Google Calendar and put the Wednesday workshop so they would at least know they've registered for it. And I have people register 5 times and they don't use calendars. And I do not understand why they don't, unless when they left work, they said, I'm never using a calendar again. Go figure. Google Keep, note-taking service. You can use it with images, using OCR. Again, your notes, it's kind of like OneNote in Microsoft. Again, Google wants to be the be-all, end-all as Microsoft does. And here's a note, and I'm going, this is another note, and I have blah, blah website, blah, blah. My notes are, my explanation things are always cryptic, but you can make reminders, edit your labels, archive things and trash them after the meeting's over, gone. And if you use Evernote, Google has said, hey, you can use this. If you use OneNote, Google is saying, why don't you try this? A lot of people like Tom's Guide, and that is a review from him about which one is the best in his estimation. Google Groups. A lot of people use groups.io. In fact, more people use groups.io where I have been asked to join their groups. But two that I'm with use Google's groups. The Columbus Computer Society is one of them, and the Lake County Area Computer Enthusiasts, LCACE, is another one. And of course, they share information. The enthusiasts are northeast, or I guess east, Illinois. So I get them from both of them. And here's the enthusiasts. They have 73 members. And JJ, he's sending out information about the Central Florida Computer Society Windows SIG. And JJ and some other guy is sending information out World Backup Day. And what JJ does is when and the Columbus Computer Society, when I send my information about like World Backup Day or the Wednesday workshops, they go out in the Google groups. And you can see up there, the enthusiasts have been using this longer because there's 993 messages in their account. The Los Angeles Computer Society went from Yahoo groups to the IO. And like I said, there's more people that use that company, groups.io, than this one. But they both operate the same. And here's Columbus Computer Society. They have 114 members and they only have 61. So they have just, at the time in the spring, started using this. Google Voice, back in the day, my computer club had a phone number and it came through to my house. And it was interesting because, I used the same message for that I did when we actually had a real phone that we paid for in the office, which was, my youngest daughter's bedroom in the back. But it's a cloud-based VoIP. I happen to use Spectrum's phone service like this, but you take your phone wherever you go. Nobody really knows what your real phone number is because this one isn't real. And you can get the messages with an email. Instead of having to listen to it, you can get it as an email where you can just read it, and it will forward your calls from one number to the next. And again, they don't really know where you are, who you are. And I suggest that every computer club needs one of these because there are some people that like to pick up the telephone and call somebody and talk to them. And even if they're in technology, that's just what they like to do. And if you have a Google phone number listed on your website and somebody that is responsible for listening to the calls or reading the messages, you're good to go. You can at least even if you get a half dozen calls a year, it's a half dozen people that you're talking to that you're probably not going to get in contact with. Google Messages, they have the next generation of texting standard. It's replacing SMS. Google always likes to be at the head of the line when stuff like this comes out. And the carrier rollout, that would be your Verizon and your T-Mobiles and people like that. That's been really slow and happening. And so it's one-on-one chats. It'll eventually be, it's end-to-end encrypted by default. Google, and we're happy about that. And our carriers will not be able to read the content of our messages. And it is slowly rolling out. And Google, as much as people say they know everything about us, they do provide services like this, so we can have things a little bit more private. Your texts sent via the web are also encrypted, and it's called the Signal Protocol Code for its encryption implementation. And it is not, I find interesting, available in China or Russia. Go figure. Google Meet, it's the same thing as Zoom. This is the only platform I have not attended a meeting. Nobody has ever invited me to a Google Meet. And so I'm assuming none of the computer clubs are using this. I know I've attended Teams, I've a Cisco, WebEx, free conference call. The seniors group in Kansas City, Kansas uses the free conference call platform. And, but Google Meet does the exact same thing. No dial-in phone numbers, no recording. You don't have to raise your hand. That's the problem. No polls and Q&A, no attendance reports. APCUG could not use this because we rely on the last bullet point for all of our workshops and online meetings that we do. Google Maps, we all know about Google Maps. We love them. I have to share that I went to Newport on Saturday night with the city on a bus. It was their first COVID time trip. And we got on the 405 and down we went. And apparently he zipped right past in the carpool lane, the exit to go to Newport. And the gal behind me, my youngest daughter's mother-in-law, she goes down there all the time because her grandson lives down there with his dad. And she said, very quietly, he should have gotten off back there. And finally, the guy sitting in front of me, who seemed quite knowledgeable about everything that went on from Santa Clarita down, through Long Beach and everything, he tapped the tour people on the shoulder in the next seats up and said, and so they quickly got their phones out and were checking the map and everything. And then one of them spoke to the guy. We were almost, we're almost to Lake Forest. When I would go to the conference in San Diego, I stopped off at Lake Forest to McDonald's, used their restroom, got another Diet Coke, and off I went for the rest of my way to go to San Diego. So I thought, maybe we'll just end up in San Diego. What do I know? And he got over and he turned around, he got off. And of course they were doing construction and he had to go this way and that to get back to the freeway going north. And Carol said, we're in the right-hand lane. That's the one that goes to the 5. He had to get all the way over 5 or 6 lanes of traffic to get in the far left lane so he could get off. We were 45 minutes late, but we made it in time to go on the boat tour. So Google Maps, why he was not using this, I have absolutely no clue. But it has users transit, bus and bike share routes, and it's got eyes-free walking navigation feature that lets vision impaired users have detailed voice guidance. And that's under walking options. And I think that is so cool. And you use the incognito mode if you don't want your activity saved by Google. But, they've got 800 public transportation providers to adopt this, that, and the other thing. So it's something that everybody but the city bus driver seems to use. And offers satellite imagery, you name it, 360-degree interactive panoramic views of streets. Again, talking about Southwest. Some Google guy was at the Interactive Computer Users Group in Missouri's meeting. And I got in touch with him and I said, would you like to come to San Diego? We're having our conference. And he said, sure. And I found out he only said yes if he had relatives or friends to visit at the same time. And so he was older. He wasn't old, but Google is a company of kids. And because I've been up to San Jose, they're all kids. And he said the age level went up a little bit when they hired him. and he was requested to come on board for the street view. And he had just finished San Diego. We were the first people at Southwest to see what it looked like with a street view of downtown San Diego. It was so cool. But we use this all the time, and it's wonderful. But you can become a map guide. And if you're interested, it's a global community of 18 years plus. You can be a volunteer. You can write reviews where you've been. You can share photos that you've taken. You can answer people's questions if they want to know what you thought about this restaurant or whatever. And it's millions of people rely on those Explorer volunteers to decide where to go and what to do. Who knew? Sign up with your Google account, select where you are, and every place you review, photograph, add, edit, or provide additional information, you earn points toward unlocking something new, and it is always a surprise. Sounds something fun to do if you're that kind of person that would love to do this. But ways, I can remember Stacy and I had to take Jack out to the first hockey game, ice hockey game out in Anaheim. We went during peak traffic time, and I had the fun time of being the Waze person. Okay, Stacy, now coming up, there's going to be a policeman on the side pulling people over. Every time I told her that, they were already gone. And I have used this, and it has taken me off in downtown LA through the dregs of humanity and back on the freeway again. And yes, indeed, I did miss a big traffic jam. So this is way cool. It used to be the Waze, and then it was now Google's program. Google Earth, satellite imaging, 3D buildings, terrain. You want to go travel someplace when we can travel, and you can see where you're going before you go to see exactly what it is you want to see. And you can use your computer, tablet, or smartphone, and you can zoom to your house or anyone else. Take a 360-degree perspective view with Street View, and you're off and running. They have done this with 98% of the world, and there's 10 million miles of Street View imaging. It'll go around the globe 400 times. And one time I was so excited, I saw the Google car with the picture taking stuff on the top, and it was chugging up my street, taking pictures of all the houses. I thought that was way cool. But I had a student, and when I was talking about this, he said, wait a minute. I don't want people to see my house because I have a motorhome. And if there's a picture on Google Earth that has the motorhome in my driveway and they come by, they're going to go, he's not there. Maybe he's on a trip. They drive by another day, it's still gone. He said that's very easily, I could come back and there would be nothing left in my house. So you can request that it be blurred, and they will do that for you, but it's permanent. You can't unblur it. And he was the happiest camper in the whole world if he could do this, because he was sure somebody was going to break into his house while he was on vacation because his motorhome wasn't in the driveway. There's also arts and culture, and they want to bring the world's art and culture online so anybody can access it anywhere. You can walk through and enjoy collections over 2,000 museums, art galleries, and on and on and on. It works just like Google Street View, or you can just click on the gallery's floor plan. And I love this. The platform emerged as a result of Google's 20% time policy. The employees were encouraged to spend 20% of their time working on an innovative project of interest. And there's a website devoted to this. Some make it to market and some don't. You could travel all around the world, look inside museums. I have attended the Westchester PC user group meeting where one of their presentations has been one of the museums that goes with this. And it was absolutely extraordinary. It was so, you got so immersed in seeing everything. It was incredible. And that was their meeting presentation. And each day they have suggested places that they think you might want to sit in your chair and take a tour. Everybody's heard of Google Photos. They're real cool. You can do some editing with it. It does all kinds of interesting stuff. If you ever want a presentation on Google Photos, you are going to ask the Geeks on Tour out of Florida. And they're knowledgeable. She's written a book. In fact, she's written at least 2 books. And she's, you know, like you have the Microsoft MVPs, she's one of those for Google Photos. And their presentations are really, really good. And they will show you the presentation via their smartphone. And it's always, and then you can do this with the other brand of smartphone too. And this is how you do that. They will group your photos for you in people, places, and things. And it analyzes photos for similar faces and groups them together in the people category. Yes, they are looking our shoulder and seeing what we're doing. And it can also track faces as we age. Places category uses geotagging data, but it can determine locations in older pictures, but they're looking at the major landmarks. Like if you took a picture 15 years ago and there's the Eiffel Tower in it. They have the things category, and it's birthdays, building, cats, concert, you name it. And all of a sudden, there's every picture that you've taken of your 13 cats you've had over the last 10 years. And they're all there together for you. Extremely easy to use, extremely easily to share with the social networks if you are somebody like that. And generates web links. You don't have to be using Google Photos. Users and non-users can both access it. Look at your pictures. This takes place of, I'm coming over, I'm showing you and bringing my, you know, your paper photos, so to speak, of the vacation. And you've got them, you know, you've got them done at Costco, and here you are, and you've got a whole box of them that you're going to share. This takes that place, and you're doing it online, and you're watching it on their television. Android Auto. Bill James has this in his car. He absolutely loves it. He thinks it is the best thing that came down the pike. And you can see all the things that you can have. This is just a mock thing. This isn't Bill's system. But with this car, and his car is like 3 years old, but he still has this and he just loves it. When my daughter and I went out to Ventura Harbor on Wednesday night to be on her boat, it's her and her husband's boat, to watch their light parade that honestly was better than one down in Newport Beach. She kept getting calls as we were going. Her sister was saying, "We're here, where are you?" And she got a late start. And so, well, I got a late start with her, and everything was just right. She's just driving right along, you know, and it pops up, and it was just way cool to use. Google Play, this is the official app store. If you're going to use add something to your Android stuff, Google Play, you're going to use the Apple Store or the Microsoft Store. With the Google, it's free, of course, and some people like you to pay some money for them. And you can download the app to a device from the Google Play website or the store to your Android device. When I put this together last spring, it was 3 million apps available. Downloads per day for that time period, 250 million every single day. And they have an editor's choice. When you go up to there, they have things that they think you absolutely need. And you look at those and say, you know, my sleep is okay. I really don't need this, but thanks for the suggestion. They're going to have a safety section, and it's going to include transparency and how the apps use your data. And so it follows Google's families policy. And this is way cool. Again, it's a safety feature, and it's verified by an independent third party. And users can request data deletion if they decide to uninstall. I always tell people, smell the roses. Does the flashlight really need to have access to your contacts? The answer is no. It really doesn't. So stop and smell the roses and make your choices and be informed when you're doing it. Google TV, it's had several different names, and it's an online video on demand service, and it's got movies and television. It's different than YouTube TV. YouTube TV is what is used if you're going to cut the cord. If you guys have not had a cut the cord presentation, Rob Truman from Patricia's Computer Booters Group gives an absolutely fantastic presentation. When I saw his cord cutting, I felt confident that I could do it if I wanted to. No problems at all. YouTube Premium, my example is this. I love this. 3 former PayPal employees, again, probably 3 kids, put it together in 2005, and Google bought the site in 2006 for $1.65 billion. And I liken this to YouTube Premium. That's what Bill has for cutting the cord. And you can also watch all of APCUG's workshops and VTC presentations because I load them all up to APCUG's YouTube account. Music, I have home automation, want to be able to age in place. And Bill James's house is completely home automated. He names everything and it's such a hoot. But if you use the free service, and I will say when I go to bed, hey, and I've got Mr. G sitting right next to me, and I say, will you play my New York jazz? And now I'm saying, play my New York jazz music, Christmas, and it'll play Christmas music. And since I don't pay the extra for it, it's truncated. And if I would pay for it, then I would hear more music continuously. I just ask them then to play some smooth jazz or California jazz or whatever. I'm happy with not paying for it extra. And they have instant releases, new things. And if something is coming out, you can pre-save it, get to the head of the line. Google Sites is their website maker. I think APCUG has just one or 2 clubs that use the Google Sites. Most of them have changed to WordPress. You don't need any programming or design skills. Move and drag and drop and edit, and you're done, and you're good to go. And 24/7 email, chat, and phone support with a real person. That is nice. Since we have the nonprofit part of the email, we just have to guess because there's nobody that we can talk to, and there really isn't much when you Google the question. So, that's a drawback, but we get it for free, and it's undoubtedly very expensive, even for a nonprofit organization. If you want to have a podcast, you can use blogger.com. You love XYZ, you love to play tiddlywinks. So you want to put a blog together about everything about tiddlywinks and see if you can get some people that you can start interacting with it. And again, it's one-stop shopping. You've got templates, background images, you get a free domain name, you can earn money, and it uses Google's analytics to tell you who you're reaching and all that good kind of stuff. The Tampa Bay Technology Center in Florida, they have a podcast studio. Their members can reserve the studio for $5 an hour, and they have all of that stuff that goes along with it, and they occasionally hold classes on how to properly use the equipment and how to make your market grow in your podcasting. I asked them at the very strange Florida conference we had in 2019 if they would like to open that up for online, showing how you put a podcast together and everything. And I thought they could do it for free or they could charge. I said, so many groups want to do a podcast about their group, but they have no idea what to do. And I never could get them to do that since they seem to be the experts among APCUG's member groups. Google Translate. Bill does this. He goes down to Santo Domingo occasionally. He does not speak Spanish. So, he uses Google Translate to see him on his merry way. And what's cool is if you're into genealogy and you are out in a cemetery and you have found something about one of your ancestors and it's in a foreign language, you can take a picture of it and then you can use Google Translate to turn it into English for you.
Wow.
Google Pay, I'm putting together a presentation on this for the Wisconsin All Users Computer Group for February. I did a Facebook security for them last year. They advertise their meetings via Nextdoor, and I say every group should do that. It's free advertising, and who knows, you might get some new members. And they did my Facebook security and Rob Truman's Cutting the Cord, and they advertised them on Nextdoor as special meetings. But they really weren't. They were on their regular Thursday meeting night, but they said it was special. They got new members both times for both presentations. So she asked me to put something together on this that I know absolutely nothing about, but I love to learn new stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Is it secure? Well, yes, it is. It's safer than swiping your card in a terminal at a store or typing in the card details on your phone or computer during online purchases, because Google Pay and other digital wallets do not store or transmit your actual credit card numbers. So it is more secure than the way the majority of us are using our credit cards. We all know about Google search. It is one of the greatest things that came down the pike. John Kennedy says, Judy, it's DuckDuckGo. So when I'll talk about, somebody to Google it, then I will say, and John Kennedy would like me to say DuckDuckGo because it's more private. And my comment is I have been out on the internet for over 30 years or however long it's been around. My computer club is 34 years old. And all this stuff is out on all the internet bathroom walls about me, because back in the day, we didn't know we were not supposed to put all of the, our email stuff and all that out on the internet. It's just the last few gazillion years where it's gotten so, we have gotten so security conscious. But there's 3.25 billion searches a day, and they really come up quickly. I've tried to use DuckDuckGo. I've even tried to use Bing because I use Edge as my browser, and they just don't give me the results that I'm used to. And it comes up so quickly. And if you tell people don't pay any attention to the ads, just go below there and off you go. But I've tried other things, but I'm a Google kid. What can I tell you? And they still have the old thing, I'm feeling lucky. So I clicked on Curious, and I was asked, when was Shakespeare's first child born? Didn't know he had any kids. Don't know that I really care about it, but I learned something new about he's got 3 kids, what their names, christened, and the twins arrived in 1585. And so they have a thing where you could vote for your favorite doodle for Google. I know with the high schools, they will have Google Doodle contests. And oftentimes, the kids have their doodles up on their doodle page. They don't win anything other than they get recognized and stuff like that. But it's a fun thing to look at if you're hungry. There's no telling what will come up. So if you're hanging around, you don't have anything else to do, you can still do the I'm feeling lucky bit. And they keep their main search page fresh with fun doodles that change every couple of days. It's all about Christmas now. And it's maybe a game that you can play. All the games are archived and they can be played after their time on the homepage is passed. So if you've got time on your hands, read that How to Geek article and look about the old Google Doodle games from the past. You might just say, oh, I remember that. I used to play that. Well, nothing ever goes away and you still can. There's some of the old games that you could still play. And the links are all in that How to Geek article. There's old Pac-Man. Google Images, again, a great source. for something to add to your newsletter or whatever, but now we have to be so extremely careful to make sure they are not copyrighted. And Google Images was introduced in 2001 because everybody and their brother wanted a picture of Jennifer Lopez's green Versace dress, and the regular Google search couldn't handle it. So go figure. I always drill down if I choose a graphic, even if I have asked specifically that it be a free non-copyright graphic that I'm looking for, I will drill down to see where it actually comes from. And sometimes they truly are really free, but other times they want you to join the XYZ thing to download it. And I just back out and go someplace else. And we have several clubs that are being sued because bots have found PDF documents with a copyrighted graphic in it. And they have asked for anywhere from $200 up to $1,000. So everybody needs to make sure that they take a look at their website and check and see if there's anything there. I'm picky about anything because I spent my last 9 years of employment in in-house counsel. So that kind of got me on the no copyright stuff. But it's a firm in Canada. This is how they make their money. And they're affiliated with a law firm in, of course, Orange County. And they are willing to take people to court. None of the groups have done it. None of the groups have had to pay anything yet. But the Florida group and one in the Los Angeles area, they're the ones with the highest amount that requested. The one in Ohio, they've been hit 3 times, but it's never gone anyplace. So the one thing that I tell groups, do not include your Treasury information on your website or in your newsletters, because you don't want these people to find out how much money you have. Google Home, that's what I use with my buddy right here. And it can control all of your Google Home, Nest, Chromecast devices, plus a gazillion other ones, lights, cameras, thermostats, and more, all in one place. I have a large hub here and I have a small one in my bedroom that I have to keep covered up because I sleep on my right side and it glares in my eyes, but okay, fine. And it answers my voice commands and it tells me thank you. It's very polite. He will tell me that my Wemo plugs are not turning off or on, and I tell him, yes, thank you for letting me know they've gone on strike. I have Ethernet to my TV and my computer, so I'm relying on Spectrum Wi-Fi, which kind of is crummy because I'm too far from the node. And so my Wi-Fi does, everything goes on strike every once in a while. And at the same time, every night it shuts itself down and reboots itself, just like we're supposed to do with our computers and our routers. But it's a lot of fun. I laugh and I say I could very easily turn all these lights on by myself, but it's just so much fun to get to a certain step with my foot in my dining room before I turn left, and I will say, turn on the bathroom light, and by that, turn the corner to the left and the light comes on. And I get to the same place and I will turn my bedroom lights on. And I'll turn around and then I'll turn off the family room lights. And I go in the garage and, I could easily just put my little hand right there and turn that light switch on and off. But it's fun to say, hey, you guys in the garage, turn the lights on in there for me. And the lock and all this good kind of stuff. So it's just, I'm having a good time with it. And I'm using my Google Home. And my Google Assistant he's cool. And like I say, every once in a while, he'll say, well, that's my job. Or I'll thank him and he said, you're welcome. The first time that happened, I stopped in the archway going into the hall and I turned around and I thought, is there somebody in this house with me? Because he'd never said that before. And I had it for many months, but I just laughed about that. And it's excellent for seniors that are homebound. It will play your music. It will give you the news. The drill. It will do all this for you. And it's good company. My youngest daughter's mother-in-law has Alexa. and it's really good company for her. So think about that. And here's your Google Nest that they do, and their learning thermostat is programmable. Several years ago, I was taking care of my oldest daughter's house and the dogs and the cats while they went to Philadelphia. And it was summer, it was hot. And I came in there and they had a Google Nest, and I looked at that and I thought, okay, I wonder how this works. Years before I got mine. And I called my grandson, my oldest grandson, who's my techie, and they had just landed in Philly. I said, Tyler, how do I do this? Mom said she was going to show you how to fix it. She didn't have. So he programmed it. He said, what do you want it to be? Because it wasn't cool enough in the house. They've got a big 2-story. I've got a 1-story. And I said, I would like it to be. And I gave him the degrees I wanted. And from Philly, he set it. And I was a happy camper for the week that I had to come and go. But being there during the day, during the week, was tolerable. But I love it. He did it remotely for me. Google has hardware. They got your Pixel. They're up to 6 now. I have a 5. They have the Chromecast. They've taken 2 decades to work towards this mission again, to make the world's information universally accessible and useful for everybody. And they use AI software and hardware, and they want it all to work together. And so Google does, people don't think about it, but they do have a lot of hardware. They want you to be able to find a shorter route to work with your phone, a gorgeous vacation photo via Google Photos, or get a faster email response. I hope if you use Gmail, you have it set up so if you decide, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't sent that, you could set it up that you can have up to 30 seconds to bring it back and make sure that one that you really didn't mean to send comes back to you. And they want to create things that serve a purpose in our lives and that makes us wonder, how did we ever live without them? Those are all the things they have there, the smart doorbells, smoke detectors, routers, you name it. That's their hardware line. And the Pixel, they have laptops, they have tablets, they have phones. And when Google comes up with a new update, the Pixel phone gets it immediately. And if you have Verizon, Spectrum phone, T-Mobile, it takes a while. They have to incorporate it with all their stuff. But the Google is the Pixel, and boom, you get updated instantly. And of course, the Chromebooks are turning 10 years old. And they say they're not like other laptops. I don't know whether you guys have any of your members with them, but Bill James gives a really good Chromebooks for Geeks presentation. And they're running that very secure, as they say, Chrome OS. And they're sometimes called couch computers. They are thin and they are extremely lightweight. And they can run Android apps. And now they can run some Linux apps. They don't have large hard drives because you're using docs and all that good kind of stuff in the cloud. And we had a Scruggs meeting in SoCal for over 20 years, and the presidents and officers or anybody would come every quarter, and we would meet and talk about what help we needed, what new presentations we had, blah, blah. And 2 of the people, one from San Diego and the guy from Glendora, they had their Chromebooks, and they used them without having to go onto Wi-Fi. They saved everything on a USB stick, and it worked really well. And that was just the computer that was their travel computer, because they were lightweight, and it worked just fine without Wi-Fi. And of course, Chromebooks, Google wants them to overtake Windows laptops, and they were up in 2020 Q4, 287% from Q4 2019. Soon the stats for 2021 will be out, and I will be able to change this. There's Google Chromecast, lets you wirelessly stream audio and video content to your TV. Depends on if you're interested in using something like this. It's part of the Google ecosystem. and it's got movies, shows, live TV, and more, and organizes them just for you and how you wanted to use it. And everybody said, good Lord, we would really like a remote. So they came up with one. So what does Google know about us? Google has a central hub for viewing all of the data associated with our accounts. Some of the information we provide, but some stuff we might not know about. I was trying to send an email to somebody in our school district here, and you used to be able to just send them an email. And they needed me to log in with Yahoo, Gmail, Facebook, or something else. And I won't do that because that opens up the conversation between the two platforms. If Facebook and Google are talking to each other all the time, that's just a given. But if you're out and about and you log into the XYZ company with your Gmail username and password, those companies start sharing information. It's against my principles to have that happen as much as I can help myself. But this is where you can go. You go to my account, data and personalization, blah, blah, blah. And if your web and app activity is checked on, they're knowing exactly what you're doing. Your location history, the same thing. Your YouTube history, you can look and see everything you've looked at on YouTube. With a location history, you can see wherever you have gone, the stores that you have stopped at, how many miles you drove in a certain time. So you might want to think about going in there and turning everything off. And they give us controls over our data. They say, go for it. If you don't want us to track this, change it. Choose no. And you can delete everything that is already there if you would like it. And again, there's that How to Geek article, and you get all the references with this that can show you exactly how to delete everything that's already on there that you might not know is on there. So it had information about my browsing history, my Google searches, my YouTube history, my Google assisted commands, and my location history. And I went, really? Didn't know that before. Good thing I put this presentation together, because this is my part, my personal part of the presentation. Bill doesn't include this. So there's a timeline. This shows me that I drove 155 miles in April, and I was on the road for 10 hours. And I visited 3 cities, and I went to 34 places. I went to Farmer Boys up into the Antelope Valley. I went to the parts store on the corner of Bouquet and Seco to get something for my car before I went to Palmdale, which is in Antelope Valley, the next valley up. And then I went to a drugstore up there too. My daughter's mother-in-law was with me, and we went up to Burlington Coat Factory. We wanted to look and see if we were looking for something specific. We drove from there to Farmer Boys. We went from there to someplace else. And I looked at this and I thought, how about that? Who knew that Google was tracking me like that? And just for grins, I didn't join that volunteer program where you could, put your stuff in, but you could actually do that without joining the volunteer program. So I figured I would do that. And I put some information about Farmer Boys, where we'd eaten, and 2 or 3 other things. And it was interesting. I got comments back from perfect strangers about, how was the food? And, what was it like? And I thought, really? Well, they said that's what happens if you do this. And then I turned it off. So they would like you and your website to be secure. And they really are a proponent of security. Since 2014, they have been, along with the European Union, have said everybody's website has to be HTTPS. They say even if you don't sell anything, the whole 9 yards, they feel, both organizations, that being an HTTPS is a ranking signal, and that everybody around on the internet will be more secure if everybody does this. And sites that do have the S, you get a little boost in your search ranking. And again, they want a future where one day you won't need a password at all. But if companies or computer clubs, there are some computer clubs that I can't convince them they need the S. And over time, they will rank lower. They might be up at the top now, but they will rank lower because they're not considered a secure site. And here we go. Enter 2FA, announced on World Password Day that Google is going to enroll everybody in two-factor authentication by default. That is happening right now as we speak. And if you have a Gmail account, you are going to get a prompt on your smartphone to verify yourself, who you say you are, with your username and login. You can opt out of it. This happened to my oldest daughter's husband's dad. He sent the Google emails telling him he was now 2FA to his son and said, "Is this true?" Son sent it to me, and I thought, he's the first person that I knew that's gotten hit with this. Subsequently, I have found several more friends who have it. So I gave him the opt-out information. His dad doesn't know anything about technology, and I thought, hopefully he can opt out. Opting out does not last forever. They are firmly convinced that everybody should have a second authentication for your Google stuff, just like the S on HTTP. So look forward to that if you have a Gmail account. So they would also like you to go through their quick security checkup to ensure that all of your settings and account protections are where they should be, which is nice of them. Most people don't think about doing this. So we're going to talk about Google. This is Google Venice, and Venice is south of LAX. And they are extremely casual places to work. And as you walk in, on each wall and the ceiling, it's all the Google Doodles and various and other things. And they play and collaborate. And they have the pool table, they've got the other table there, whatever that's called. And at any time, people can take a break and go play with something. Or they can sit in small little pod areas and talk about what they're working on and just brainstorm, so to speak. It's totally nothing formal in any way, shape, or form. And Google Venice, that you can bring your dogs to work. There's where you hang your leash. There's kibble and water for them. And of course, they're very close to the ocean. So you can bring your bicycle and your surfboard to the Venice office. And you can, at lunchtime or when you get off, whip right out. If the surf is up, you can go surfing and then bring it back and park it and come back the next day. There's always free food. They have many of these break areas, like the one on the left. You are free to take any of the food. On the right, I also went up with Jerry Clark, former president of the Long Beach group. And when that guy came down from Google to the conference, we asked if we could have a tour. And he said, "Sure, come on up." And we went up there, and it's the same thing. They have food stations, Mexican, Thai, Chinese, you name it. And they have regular plates. You are not eating off paper plates. They have regular utensils, regular glassware, and coffee cups. And I don't know if they have that down here, but in Google San Jose, they have Ben and Jerry's Google ice cream cups. But Google Venice has the exact same. They had just 2 or 3 of the different food stations. But again, everything is free, and it's all about ideas. And there's one of the little areas where you can sit, and there's your hand cleaning stuff and everything. I got to go to this one and Playa del Rey with the Los Angeles Computer Society. Their president was a computer teacher for the LA school district. And I got to be a chaperone. So I got my body up at the crack of dawn and whipped on down that 405 at a very slow pace in order to be a chaperone for both of these events. I wouldn't have missed it for anything, especially since I'd already been up to San Jose. And they said, afterwards, I saw a sign that said don't take a picture of that. But when you come into work, you stop by these people and you pick up your laptop. You don't have an assigned computer because everything is in the cloud. You pick up your laptop. This is where they get fixed. And you can see on the wall over there, there's these wipe off boards and places where you can put paper and people standing around collaborating on what they're doing, and they're writing it down here. Absolutely, the most fun place to work, so to speak. YouTube was in Playa Vista, and this was outside of their campus. And if you stood up on the top of that hill, you could see the Pacific Ocean on the other side. And they were all bright colors and everything. And they had coming events of what's going on. And it was a very small location. So they had only 3 of these free eating areas, but they had a little restaurant inside where you could go in and sit and have your lunch. But people are just casually standing around, checking things out. They're not sitting at desks or anything. And this is the outside of theirs. And there's a recording studio, upper right, and just random pictures down below. And it was all about YouTube.